our technology and our phones and everything else that we had going for us, that, this kind of stuff just kind of falls by the wayside. It didn't really occur to us because we've got more important things to think about. But these creatures, if we came along second, and they've been here a while, who knows what the story? I think that's probably the bigger story is, where we are in the scheme of the other creatures on the planet, and I don't think that the government, the paper companies, the forestry industry wants us to know that, for a variety of reasons. These creatures are living in the hard to get to forest. Well, you're going to shut down all the forests and all the timber business and all the paper companies. You're going to have to shut down everything because you've got an unprotected relative of man or other type of creature living here, and we have to protect the habitat till we know more about them. Well, that ain't going to happen because that's going to shut down millions and millions and billions of dollars. And, they are spending a lot of money with the lobbyists in Washington to make sure that this stuff stays just like it is, So, there's a lot of things to gain and lose by the admission that there is something, a creature on this planet that defies explanation and belief, because it's not a June bug or it's not a grasshopper. It's
right.
It's a creature that may be superior to us in many, many ways. We don't know. You got to consider all of the possibilities, even some that are far-fetched. You got to consider some of this stuff, because if you don't, well, you're missing the boat. You're leaving stuff off the table that might answer this. So, I go into that in the book. I really, really want to stress that the witnesses need to be respected and listened to, and they're telling us some things, that may never happen to us. So we need to listen to these people. We need to listen to their reports because they're experiencing things we may never experience.
Well, you mentioned that in the book, and you've of the many, many, many people you've interviewed. There are the hoaxers out there. They're the people that are pulling your leg. They're the people that are just looking for attention. And you said you can pretty much tell somebody's trying to do that just by the way they are. But then there's the other ones, the ones who really they need somebody to talk to because they don't want to talk to their close friends or their people in their small communities because of what they'll be thought of.
Ostracized, ridiculed.
Yeah.
I've talked to some people, and they've said on some of this stuff anywhere from 5 to 40 years. They just sat on it because they didn't want to go through the crap that they already went through. Some of them have lost spouses and girlfriends. I just had a guy he lost his girlfriend and a good friend because of what happened to him and his belief that it was what it was, and it wasn't a bear or a guy in a suit or a deer or a boogeyman or something. It was a Sasquatch event. Mm-hmm. And so these people are carrying this stuff with them. You live in small communities and you have a small circle of friends. Somebody thinks you're a kook. What happened? Oh, old Bob saw a Sasquatch. Oh my God. Oh geez. Let's don't invite him to Thanksgiving dinner anymore. But that's, you laugh, but that's kind of almost what it's like. This guy is like, devastated. He lost his girlfriend because she goes, I can't wrap my head around this. I don't believe it. We're going to have to just think about that. And so that was it, So just multiply that times, dozens and dozens and hundreds of people, they, ridiculed at work. That's why, cops don't say anything publicly. Airline pilots don't say anything about the UFOs because they're going to be unemployed the next day, that kind of stuff. So, there's a lot of pressure and ostracization. How about if I said that 10 times fast?
Well, you mentioned the pilots, and once upon a time, pilots, especially military aircraft pilots, never mentioned the UFOs. And ever since the Tic Tac UFOs and Sergeant Favor or Captain Favor, they sat him down, they interviewed him, they said, okay, well, thanks for your sharing. They didn't penalize him. They didn't ostracize him. They just said, okay, well, you saw this and we'll put that in the report. Ever since the Tic Tacs, now you see a lot of these military people coming out saying, well, I saw this, I saw that, I saw that, I saw this, because they weren't ostracized, because they weren't mocked and ridiculed and put in a straitjacket and had their rank pulled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now
who wants that?
The whole thing, and the whole thing about Bigfoot, and here's what really gets me about Bigfoot. You say, well, what is Bigfoot? What is Sasquatch? Well, it's a 8 to 10 foot being, looks like a gorilla, kind of looks like a man, Northern California, places that are just kind of desolate and out of the way. And it's a North American thing, maybe up into Canada. The truth of the matter is, basically every civilization or native people on every continent have some type of story, some type of Bigfoot. All of them, not most of them, all of them have some type of a Yeti, a Sasquatch, a swamp ape, a something.
Yeah. And what are you going to do with that when you hear that over and over and over?
Yeah.
You're all full of crap. You're all crazy. Or
Asians, Africans, Europeans, North America, South America, Australians, you name them, they've got a Sasquatch type being in their folklore. Yeah. They all do.
It's a smoke and fire theory.
Yeah. And 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, they didn't see that on social media. So they weren't getting their act together and checking out their stories. These were all independent people.
Yeah. Hoaxing didn't exist then.
People didn't have time to hoax.
Yeah.
People had to find food.
The guy trying to kill you. You're trying to run. You're too busy running from the saber-toothed tiger that's trying to disembowel you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So yeah, it's an ongoing thing, and the new book, I have a couple of I have a gifting thing that is the crux of a very interesting, because in the book that you've got, I talk about them counting. They can count. They and it's old news to a lot of people, but they can count, and they do count, and they can actually delineate between the individual people they're counting with, gifting. And I have a really compelling story and argument for that, and which is, if I do this book, and I'm not sure, I'm not like baiting anybody. I just really don't know if I have the duration to do another one, but I think I might. I think I got enough stuff. So, but it's if you want me to tell you this,
yes,
tale,
please.
It's very compelling. I led 2019 October. I led an expedition for BFRO in Illinois. Now, it wasn't well attended because it was on the books, and then whoever was going to do it backed out, couldn't do it, family troubles, I'm not sure. So they took it off the books. Well, a lot of people called and said, hey, I want to go to this expedition. So, can you find somebody else to do it? So they put it back on the board, and it's 300 miles from me, I'm in Kansas City. And I said, well, I got a place I kind of been wanting to look at there. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. Well, long story short, I had 6 people. That was it. And I and my investigator partner in Illinois were 2 of the people. So there's 4 people. He and I and 4 people. So this is 2019. So I lead the expedition. We're in Trail of Fears in Illinois.
Okay.
In Murfreesboro. So we go to an area that I had scouted. I spent about 4 or 5 days scouting the area. I come up with an area that I kind of liked. And so we went to this one area, and I'll keep it short. We found 5 footprints among stick structures and other things, but 5 pretty good prints. 3 were probably Sasquatch. 2 were probably human. But since these are new people, I let them cast the prints for the practice. So we found them, we cast the print, we mixed the Ultra Cal, which is a casting material, a dental casting material that I use. And we cast it and let it dry. We came back to get the prints after they sat there and cured for, you don't have to leave them for about an hour. We left them for a few hours. We came back. There were 25 feet roughly between each print.
Wow.
There was 3 different trees pushed over to cover the 3 prints that we cast. They were saplings. They were, they were still alive. It was easy. I mean, they were like 10, 12 feet tall, and they were, 4 or 5 inches circumference. They were saplings, easy to pick them up, move them, and get them. But they were still alive. So somebody had come in, and I know it was Sasquatch. They did not like us being down there sniffing around their area. And so they had pushed these trees over. So we got the prints and took them back to camp. We went down there on the Friday night of October 2019. I can't remember the exact date, but it was, October. And we were surrounded, we were parallel. In other words, the creatures were on each side of a very deep ravine, and we had about 150 yards, maybe 200 to walk to get to a log that was blocking the ravine. That was going to be my cutoff point. So we walked down there. They were throwing twigs and rocks at us. You could hear them walking up above us on both sides. They were paralleling us. They were stomping, but there was no communication, no howls, no grunts. We might have heard a grunt every now and then, but there was no knocking, no howls, or any kind of verbal or overt communication other than the noise they made following us down this ravine. So anyway, we get there, we get to the end, and it was about 11 o'clock at night, and we were surrounded on both sides. We could hear it, we could feel it. You knew they were there. They were throwing stuff at us. We decided we got our money's worth. It was kind of creepy for a couple of folks. So we left and went back to camp. Well, my partner, he's had a stroke. He's had cancer. He's got some physical problems, so he could not make the walk with us down this ravine on Friday night. So he stayed back by our cars. We went back Saturday, and hunting season had opened that day, Saturday. And so we went down there Saturday night, and there was absolutely no activity at all because, the gunfire and the hunters, up in their stand stuff, it chased all the animal, life, everything. It was just different. There was nothing there. So anyway, end of the expedition for 2019. So I liked the area, and there were some other intriguing things that made me want to go back. So I called my partner, and we went back in October 2020. Now, this is right in the middle of the pandemic. And so it was just he and I, and it was nearly a year to the date we were there. And this will come into play. So we went, we stayed at our old campsite, which is about 12 miles away from this area. Then we drove over to here. We did the same thing as we did before. So let me backtrack. Saturday night, he couldn't go with us either. So he stayed at camp. So both nights we went out, my partner did not go. He stayed because it was just too much warm. It was very jagged, downhill one way, uphill the other, very jagged, uneven, rocky terrain. It was just difficult for him to, maneuver. Anyway, so we go back October on a Tuesday and a Wednesday is when I got there, Tuesday and a Wednesday. We went and just to go back to the area and relive it. And this time he could walk down there because it was daylight. It was just he and I. We didn't have a bunch of other people I had to take care of. So it was just he and I. We walked down to the area. We passed the 3 trees that had been pushed over. And I know those were done by the Sasquatch. They didn't want us down there sniffing around. And there was 2 more trees pushed over before we got to the big log that had been blocking the trail, which is our cutoff point. They were pushed over from the left. So we had 3 trees from the right and 2 from the left. It was just an odd placement and coincidence. It's it was just an odd thing. And they were not wanting us to go past this point was the feeling we got. So anyway, we went down.